PodMind is brought to you by DATAMIND and Swansea University. I'm Marcos del Pozo Banos, Senior Lecturer at Swansea University. And today we have a very special episode focusing on the heart of DATAMIND's mission, which is putting patients and the public at the very center of mental health research. At DATAMIND, we believe that the voices of those with lived experiences of mental illness, or those who care for people with mental illness, are essential to shaping the future of mental health research and care. And that's why we have the Super Research Advisory Group, or SRAG. The SRAG is made up of individuals from all walks of life with diverse ages, backgrounds, and experiences. Many of them had never been part of patient and public involvement groups before, but they all share a common goal: to ensure that mental health research is guided by the people it's meant to search. From advising on research priorities to developing guidelines for data sharing, the SRAG plays a vital role in making sure DATAMIND's work is ethical, inclusive, and impactful. So today, I'm thrilled to be joined by two incredible members of the SRAG, Jan Speechley and Michael McTernan. So welcome to both of you, and thank you so much for joining us today. I'm really looking forward to hearing about your experiences, your work with the SRAG, and your vision for the future of mental health research. So I guess I will just start by asking you whether you can tell us a bit about yourselves and what brought you to DATAMIND Super Research Advisory Group.
Yeah, so in say 2010, I thought that mental health was something that happened to other people, and not something that happened to me. But at that time, some things happened in my life to do with work and family, and at some point I worked out that that I did have a mental health. It was happening to me right then and there. Mm-hmm. I was struggling, and it really kind of changed the way I saw, or the way I realized that I had to work on my mental health, be aware of it, and respond to how I feel. And it's been a journey since then, you know. So, going to therapy, practicing mindfulness, and all these things. And so now, now I understand that mental health not only just happens to me, it happens to everybody, everywhere, all the time. And for me, why DATAMIND? Well, one, I think one of the most important things is that we talk about mental health. We make it something a subject which is okay for everybody to share their feelings about. And DATAMIND, someone emailed me. I still can't work out who. Someone emailed me and said, you'd be interested in this. And there was an email about joining DATAMIND Research Advisory Group. I've got no idea who it was, but I do want to thank them for it because it's been such a good experience.
Yeah. Great. What about you?
My experience is slightly different because I've sort of coped with mental health throughout my life. Both my parents had bipolar disorder, and I've struggled with depression and anxiety sort of from being a child, really, and at a time when it wasn't really recognised and people weren't making the links between parents with mental health conditions and what effect that was having on their children. So always kind of wanted to get involved and make things better, and got involved with mental health projects in a very, very small way, really on the edge of things, but very academic focused, not public and patient focused. Mm-hmm. And then as it happened, and as luck would have it, when I'd finished one of these small projects, one of the people involved was starting to get involved in DATAMIND, which was in 2021, and she said to me, why don't you apply for this? They're looking for people from all over the country, etc., and all 4 nations, and applied and got it, and then obviously started in 2022. And I think one of the greatest things for me is we are all so different in so many ways, but the goal and the glue that holds us together is the fact that we are all advocates and really, really passionate about improving things for patients and the public and getting the mental health message out there.
Definitely.
That's great. Yeah. So, Michael, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you have a background in both counseling and technology. Yes. How do you think that those two worlds come together in what you bring to DATAMIND?
So when I started understanding about my own mental health, I became passionate about helping other people, and I'd worked in technology all my life, and I got involved in a project helping young people to start the conversation around mental health, because I think it's easy for us to believe that young people these days, you're all talking about the mental health and blah blah, and everybody's got a mental health problem, but actually, young people and adults with mental health issues, most of them don't talk about it.
Yeah.
That's the problem. They're all wandering around trying to pretend to be okay, and they're not. And so, working in that was about how to use AI to help young people start the conversation. Continue to work on that as a technologist, and as things in as social media and artificial intelligence become bigger parts of our lives. There's a draw for people to go and use them to get the support they need, which quite often lacks evidence and can be dangerous. I think it's really important that DATAMIND and that healthcare addresses that and talks to those people, and doesn't allow them all just to disappear off onto social media. So on that side, it's what I've done all my life. But I during COVID, I trained to be a counsellor, and that's quite different. So in AI, how do you create a tool that lots of people can use independently? Whereas a counsellor, I'm going to sit with you for an hour, and I'm really going to focus on what you want, what you need, and I find that really amazing thing, because people tell me their stories, maybe things they've not told anybody else, and that's a privilege. And by doing so, they can maybe change that story for themselves, and I absolutely love it. Yeah.
Right. So I think you're right. There is an element of, what people think about these tools like AI, and also what people think that we're doing here in DATAMIND and research. And I believe you, Jan, you work on developing the data literacy course that we have in DATAMIND.
Yeah.
So can you tell us more about that? Why do you think those kind of courses are important also?
I think there's a lot of health inequalities start with not being able to explain how you feel.
Yep.
And immediately, if you don't have the articulation or the intellect or whatever word you want to use to explain, that then comes out in poor behaviour. So you might get angry with everybody, or you might get isolated or whatever, because you cannot explain what's going on. You might not understand it, but you can't put it into words. So I think that's really important. I saw the data literacy course as a start to show people that it's kind of about myth busting. There's no sort of special club here. Data's for everyone. And it's like breaking down those barriers and saying, actually, we can produce something in a few PowerPoint slides that might unlock something in someone's mind to say, actually, that's how I feel. That's what happens to me. That's why I couldn't cope with going to the supermarket today, because I'm feeling this or that. And then you can kind of explain, and then that opens the door to your treatment and your care, because you can explain to the GP or the doctor, whoever it is, how you're actually feeling. You can put that into words. So I just thought it was so incredibly important. And the other side of the data literacy course, of course, is getting people involved in PPIE, because it's just giving them those basic building blocks to think, actually, I can understand this.
So
And
follow.
I was going to say, that's why technology, but also face-to-face is so important, because the technology can allow people to understand what's going on for them. And that's why TikTok and YouTube is so successful, because they're able to connect with the young people or the adults, say, look, is this what's going on for you? Yeah. And by saying that, people, oh yeah, that's me, and they get drawn in. But we need to be using technology to do exactly that, help people to understand what's going on, that it's okay, that they, and there's stuff that they can do, and then it might be other AI, or it might be going to see a counsellor, or it might be going to see their GP, but there's help out there.
Right.
Yeah.
Very important message. I like that. There is help out there. Yes.
There is help out there, but I think the technology, what the danger is for me is we build a generation coming through now, the young people, who think they're going to solve all their mental health problems online, that they're going to watch a podcast or they're going to read something and they're going to be better the next day. Of course, that's not going to happen. And I think one of the really important messages is AI and the technology and the social media can highlight, and it can show you that you're not alone and that other people are having these issues, but then it needs to signpost what happens next, because sitting in your bedroom watching lots of things on social media is not necessarily going to make you better. It's just going to empower you to do something about it, and I think those points are really important.
Right. So you, Jan, you mentioned also like to kind of like encourage them to get involved. But I think a lot of listeners will be asking themselves, how does this really work? You know, how do I, what is it that I have that I can bring to the table that I have of value? So can you maybe explain to them what is, let's say, a normal day as a member of SRAG in DATAMInd? What is it that they can, in fact, what is it that they do have that can bring, and this will definitely be useful for us?
I think that's really, really, really difficult question. But I think the answer for me is that everybody's got something to give, but they might not know what that is until they go to their first meeting. So I've heard people say, well, I haven't got anything. But what you've got is that locked lived experience that when you start to talk in a safe environment with other people with similar experiences, you might think, that happened to me. Oh, that was a really good experience. That was a really bad experience. That happened, that wasn't right, or whatever. So I think it's kind of, it's all there in you, but you need that safe environment, that safe space, and people with really specialist knowledge of how to get that from people in a safe, inclusive, accessible way and make them feel valued. But I think you might not necessarily think you can do it, but everybody, we've all been patients, we've all been involved in the NHS, we've all been to the GPs, we've all had days on Friday afternoon when we're not really looking forward to the weekend because our mental health is really poor that day, and what can we do about it, who can we get in touch with, and all those are filed in your brain, and it only needs a really mutual, safe conversation and you will recall those things. I think that's what it is.
Awesome, thank you. Anything you want to add to that, Michael?
To that, no, I think Jan's spot on that anybody can, pretty much anybody with a lived experience to export. Because we've, as you say, we've all had those days when we've not felt great, but also we've all experienced healthcare. And it's giving something, right? It's, I talk about it like giving blood. I give blood, I don't know what happens to blood after I give it, but suppose it saves lives, right? Super important. This is similar, right? It's an opportunity to give your experience and talk about it in a way that it informs the research that goes on into mental health, maybe the development of services. And that's not just good, it's not just a benefit to you, it's a benefit to many, many people.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think it's the altruistic things, that you're not doing it to change things right at that second, but something you say as part of a research project might steer that research project into a certain way, which will change how people with mental health are treated, how they're spoken to, the assumptions that are made or not made, and maybe in 10 years' time, because of what you did, things are better. And that's why I do it, because I think some of the experiences I've had, I would not want anyone to ever experience that, because it was so bad. And then the good ones need to be, which I've also had, need to be built on and made even better. So I think you do it to help other people.
Right. So we have mentioned AI a couple of times and technology. So I would be reminiscent if I don't mention the paper that you published called "How Will AI Make Sense of Our Messy Lives and Improve Our Mental Health," which is published in Frontiers in Psychiatry. I absolutely recommend everyone to read it. We'll definitely put a link in the description. But what I found most fascinating was actually your angle, because you do talk about ethics, you do talk about privacy, but I think how you explore whether AI can actually truly understand the complexities of mental health and people's lives in general. Did you think AI can ever truly understand mental health, or are there aspects of it that it just can't be quantified?
Oh, well, that's a really difficult question to answer. I mean, obviously, a very simple answer, which is large language models don't understand anything. So
Fair enough.
they're certainly artificial, but they're not intelligent. But that's not enough, because actually they can be really useful in terms of sounding like something that understands you, and that creates engagement. And I think that engaging people in their mental health, so they understand what's going on, they understand that happens to other people, they understand that it's okay, and they understand there's help out there. That's the goal, right? That's what we want to be doing. We want to be engaged. We want to be getting people to use the tools that we develop, which are safe, to get them to get help. And so it has a role, it has a place to play. Does it fully understand people? I would say no, but it can be used to engage people, and then can be built in an environment with support and signposting and extra help tools, etc., which is maybe not quite as good as seeing someone face to face, but it's a damn sight better than seeing nobody.
Right.
I have a slightly different angle because I don't have a background in AI. I'm not a science person at all. But I think one of the questions is, it's not about will AI ever understand our messy lives, it's will the builders of the AI platforms ever be able to understand it enough to teach the AI how to understand it. I think there's a step missing.
Yes, that's really interesting, yes.
And also, how much of the information, if you go to the GP and you say, I'm feeling really rubbish today, and the GP says, take these tablets, you'll be fine in 3 months.
Yeah.
But all the information that you give after that, how well is that recorded? Because you can only give AI the data that you've actually collected. And for me, a lot of the stuff you actually say in the surgery or in the hospital or with the therapist is so complex and it's so messy. How are you going to capture that? Because that makes up that whole person. And until we can do that, I mean, we called it messy lives because no one with mental health issues fits into a box, because lives are messy. And it's a different day every day, and your mental health is different every day. And that's not just for people with diagnosed mental health conditions. We all have days when our mental health is better than others or worse than others. So I think it's a really, really complex. I think it's got a part to play, and I think it is making improvements, but it's the nuances of what you're saying, and even sometimes what you don't say, and how do you put that into AI?
I think what you're saying is super interesting, because I sort of think what's really exciting at the moment is that, can you translate how you describe your mental health in a way that your doctor understands it, and then can the AI translate back to you what you're being told, but in a way that empowers you, gives you agency. Because quite often, and historically what happens is, I feel depressed, feel down, I go to the doctor goes, okay, take these, and I go off and I just keep taking these pills until whenever. Whereas actually, my life's going to change, And if I can articulate my feelings better, if I can notice my change, if I can even be recording it, then I can get better health provision for myself.
There was a really good example actually in something I was watching, and they said there was this sentence recorded in someone's notes, and it said, the patient caught the bus today. So you might think, so what? Everybody catches a bus every day. But what AI can't define is, was that the first time that person had ever got on a bus because of anxiety and depression? Had something bad happen to them on a bus and that was part of their therapy? We don't know, because all we know is that person got on the bus today. And it's those kind of examples that on its own doesn't actually mean anything, but actually that could be the biggest thing in that person's life for years.
That's
That's
really interesting. I had a ton of questions here. Fortunately, very unfortunately, we're actually way past the time. But I do want to finish with one last question, which hopefully you can give me, an answer for this, which is, what does being part of SRAG, being involved in mental health research, what does it mean to you? And what has been the most rewarding part of it?
I think what it means to me is it's being part of a bigger picture, being part of something that is making a difference. And in the 3 years that we've been involved, we've seen differences. We've created a data literacy course. We've created a glossary so that people who don't have that expertise about clinical terms and things like that, and the dreaded acronyms and abbreviations, can find out what they mean. They can find explanations. But I think one of the greatest things for me is making those connections with people like Michael. It's empowered us to do things beyond DATAMIND. I never thought I'd get published in a journal, something like that, but I think I'm most proud of those relationships, that as a group we have the shared goal of wanting to make things better for people with mental health.
I mean, I think there's a motivation at the heart of this, wanting to support people's mental health, and it comes from, for me, during COVID, one of the lockdowns, my daughter was at university and one of her friends completed suicide, and it devastated my daughter and many people's lives.
Yeah.
And she didn't get out of bed for like 3 months or something. Had to reset the year at university. And what she did was she shaved her head to raise money, and that was her reaction, and many more things. And not my reaction to that, but my reaction to that general, looking at my daughters growing up and seeing them struggle and seeing their friends struggle, is I want to do something, and this is the thing I do because I've got this. I can do this, and like you said, I think the best bit. Well, apart from this podcast, the best bit is the things we didn't think we'd get to do. Like, I'm dyslexic, right? And I've got a published, peer-reviewed opinion piece written with Jan. Thank you very much.
That's a drop down. Yeah, drop the mic. Yeah, drop the mic moment there. Right. Jan, Michael, thank you very much for this.
You're welcome.
And I think this just means that we are already overdue for a proper, for some proper time for have a longer discussion.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.